Tertiary education is not easy. It comes with its own challenges and frustrations. And sometimes you feel like your voice is not being heard and you're left with no option than to strike. Striking. What good does it do if you will end up banning the only thing that you have, your future? What if I were to tell you that you have a choice?
Greetings to all sons and daughters of Africa. In front of you is Nkosenhle Sondezi, who is the chairperson of PASMA. I will start by explaining what is PASMA. PASMA is Pan-African Student Movement of Azania, which is a revolutionary student movement that was founded in 1989 under the influence of our hero, Robert Sobukwe. The aim was to unite all African students and attack all the capital system of education, regardless of those who pretend as if they are against it, whereas they know that they benefit from it. This kind of system comes with many disadvantages, especially to a black African child. It comes with all forms of racism, discrimination, and oppression, such as financial and academic. Hence, there's a lack of poor environment in terms of safety of in our representative residences. Sorry for that. I'll just go straight to our manifestos and tell you how PASMA is willing to serve and sacrifice for you as a student of UKZN Westville campus. We are ready to rally and unite the disposed African student in Azania under the banner of liberatory ideology of Pan-Africanism, to heighten the nation consequences of African student in the nation struggle and self-determination and resiliency, to organize, educate, and lead students in their struggles, which is part of our duties, to work carelessly for final destination on imperialism, capitalism, and neocolonialism and racism, to encourage students in the programs of which endeavor to fulfill the aims and objectives of the movement and attain socialist education, to educate students to embrace vacant roles of the workers and peasant in their nation's struggle, to engage students in the educational and cultural activities which promote the African values and philosophy, to encourage students to initiate and participate constructively in the community project, which educates the spirit of self-reliance among students and creation of community projects, to build and develop sense of social responsibilities and leadership qualities among students, to establish fraternal relationship between all existing political parties in UKZN, Azania as a whole, and the whole Africa. There have been a lot of complaints from students about the poor living conditions in their respective residences. Sorry for that. However, we call for university to close those residences before they cause hazard to students. Since we're in this part of residences, students have been denied permits to come back to their respective residences for months now, but they are being charged for being at residences, whereas they're not. So we call universities to bring forward those funds and use other funds that were supposed to be used for recreation or for entertainment purposes to fund students that are in debt clearances and financial excluded. And also fund those students who owe this institution 15%. Because we don't understand what is free education. Why they say that we are free and we have free education, whereas we have to pay the university the 15%. And the most painful part is that we have to pay for our academic record. How that so? How a student can pay for it for a report, by the way, sorry. We demand the university to convert the data allocation for online of 20 GB at night to any bangles. There are students who are living in private accommodations, and then they were denied fundings, and then they had to pay for their own. So by that, we need the university to address that issue and help those students who suffer from that. And then we require the university to improve the material condition of residences and close those unconducive residences. And we call for 24 hours operation of library for students who want to utilize the university resources for their benefit. And 24 operation of campus clinic and assist students and increase security around all campuses and residences because it's not safe, especially for women. Quoting from what Stalin said, Stalin pledged a chicken and then leaving it, pledged a live chicken, sorry, Stalin pledged a chicken in pain. And then after that, gave it seed. Chicken forgot about the pain that it felt and started following him. Students, don't be fools. A wise student won't follow one in the same organization that doesn't provide good qualities, good results, by the way. They led since 2018. Now it's time for change. We say vote for PASMA for change, because the only way you can see the only way you can see change is by being part of it. PASMA will also say that as you see the university falling into the wrong hands, we will stand and fight for you, even though power is not in our hands. Let's not be political blinded. It's time for PASMA. Izwe to Africa.
Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to greet all students who are watching this manifesto presentation live. Let me also extend my greetings to all contesting organizations. It's important for me to state that we gather here under very difficult circumstances in which the world has been ravaged by an invisible enemy called COVID-19, which has claimed so many lives. And on this regard, I wish to convey my sincere condolences to all students who have lost their loved ones due to COVID-19. It is also important to mention that we gather here at also a very crucial time for the history of our democracy, as we all know that we are going to be going to the polls on the 1st of November. And as the EFF, we are going to be dislodging the ANC from power in the municipalities. So ngomhla 1 kuNovember so besikhipha amavila komasipala. Kodwa ke ngizoyeka le ngizobuyela kuyona at a later stage if the time permits. For now, I'm going to turn to the manifesto which I'm here to present on behalf of the EFFSC SRC candidates. Now, firstly, before I outline our manifesto, I must state that the EFFSC is the only organization which has actually involved students in the drafting of its manifesto. We had a program which was called Balamfund, in terms of which we had invited students to make their submissions on what they wanted the EFFSC to do in office. So indeed, we can truly say that the manifesto that I'm about to present is a student's manifesto. Asikaze sihlangane emachwaleni sabhala le manifesto. Le manifesto is a product of our students. This manifesto carries the hopes and the aspirations of the students of UKZN. Now, the first issue that I want to speak to is on accommodation and safety. Firstly, I must mention that as the EFFSC, our philosophy when it comes to accommodation is that there's a greater need for us to bridge the gap of comfortability and convenience between students who stay in off-campus residences as well as students who stay in on-campus residences. We're actually saying that the only difference that must exist between the students is the fact that omunye ugibela ibhasi, omunye akaligibeli. But in terms of comfortability and convenience, we're saying that gap must be minimized. So the first commitment that we're making, because this is a manifesto of commitments, we're saying the first commitment we're making in relation to the accommodation of students is that students should actually have the right and the ability to be able to choose where they want to stay without the institution actually dictating where they should stay. We're equally saying that the institution needs to publish the number of spaces that are available in all residences, housing. That is going to discourage a situation whereby AMRS are dies. So Leo information Leo must actually be accessible and available to our students. So the Jama students as would res is connects res as equal. So we think that will go a long way in terms of discouraging the sale of residences. The second issue that I want to speak to is that off-campus buildings which are to be leased by the institution henceforth, they've got to be O1 sleeper. We need to put an end to O2 sleeper, no 3 sleeper, because as I've said, we must bridge the gap of comfortability and convenience. Now, another issue or another commitment that we are making is that as an immediate solution, we will ensure that all leased buildings, they have a high-speed Wi-Fi. Now, a permanent solution to the issue of Wi-Fi would be the insourcing of all off-campus residences. This would mean that since all buildings would be under UKZN, all these buildings, they will actually have UKZN data. Now, let me also quickly move to the issue of the safety of AMA students. Uguti, in actual fact, AMA students in UKZN, they are not safe. And the issue of safety is not just peculiar to one campus alone. It cuts across all campuses. And we're actually proposing, or rather we're committing ourselves as the EFFSC that we'll look into the issue of safety, but our immediate view is that to deal with the situation immediately, what needs to happen is that since we all know where the hotspot areas in which crime is rife, there's a greater need for security stationed in these areas to ensure the safety of students. And we also need to intensify the patrolling to ensure that students are also safe. We also are saying that students who are staying in communes, they should also be provided with transportation. Maybe some will remember that when we were at the helm of the SRC in Howard, we actually ensured that students who were staying in communes, they were actually provided with transport. So we are making a commitment that if we are voted into power, such is going to continue. We are equally saying that emergency phone booths must be installed in all off-campus residences to ensure that the House Committee and the RA, if there's any emergency, they are able to contact RMS. We are equally saying that the permanent solution to the crisis of the buses, which are forever late, as some students have complained that buses, they tend to be late, is that we are also calling for the insourcing of the buses by the institution. Now, all these commitments that I have just articulated in relation to accommodation and safety, they will only be achieved by leadership which is radical. It will not be achieved by sweetheart of the management. Now, let me move to academics. Now, we are saying as the EFF Student Command, if online learning is to continue, then we are saying that all the catch-up assessments, they should be mandatory, meaning that students should be entitled to catch-up exams, because when we had conceptualized online learning, when I was part of the SRC during that time, the manner in which we had conceptualized it, we had said that catch-up assessments were going to be, or rather, catch-up assessments were going to replace what was then called supplementary exams. We are equally committing ourselves that we'll ensure that students, they do not have to provide any sick note if they want to write a catch-up assessment. We are also equally calling for the transformation of the curriculum. And we must also say that our conceptualization of the institution is that an institution of higher learning should actually be a human development center, not a market. Because in a market, that's where you go, you buy goods, and then they give you goods, you give them money. But an institution of higher learning should actually be more than that. It should be a human development center. Once you leave the institution, you should leave the institution having been developed. So it is on those bases that, as the EFF Student Command, we are committing ourselves that once we are voted into power, we are going to ensure that we have the UKZN radio in order to allow students who are doing drama and so on to be able to nurture their talent, to be able to participate in UKZN radio. We are equally committing ourselves that we are going to be supporting programs. For instance, in previous years we had a program which was called the Campus Crash. Those programs, they need to be supported by the SRC. And also, we must say that i-UKZN data yama issues esizoyifakela ibuko ile ndaba ye-UKZN data ukuthi kunamanye ama-sites ablockiwe ngengisawasho ngamagama ngenxa yesikhathi, but nawo abalekile ngoba kukhulu esikufunda lama sites. So ezinye zezinto lezo esithi soyilungisa ukuthi sifuna lawo ma sites lawo avulwe. Now then mase kuba i-issue ye postgrad intake ukuthi as the EFF student command we are committing ourselves ukuthi we'll fight tooth and nail to ensure that postgrad intake actually increases. In actual fact, last year when we were still in the SRC, when I was still the chair of Howard, we actually ensured that all students were those wanted offers. We pushed very hard to ensure that they were given offers, and we're driven by the fact that our own view is that the institution has got a social responsibility. The institution of higher learning must not absolve itself of its social responsibility. An institution of higher learning must respond to the issues which are being faced by the society. And the reality of the matter is that South Africa is confronted with high unemployment. And therefore, when students, they want to further their degrees, it is because they want to increase their chances of being employed. So if the institution is not giving them offers, it means that they are actually themselves as an institution actually perpetrating unemployment. Now, let me move on to the issue of funding for UKZN students. Now, I think all of us would be aware that there is an issue of 15% which has been required from the students. Now, from the onset, I must say, I must clarify our ideological posture as the EFFSC in relation to this issue, because the issue of 15%, it speaks directly to the question of the struggle for free education. Because our own view is that it is the state that must provide free education. So as the EFF Student Command, we don't have the appetite to go around and looking for funding. The appetite we have is to fight to ensure that the state funds free education. And that's a commitment that we are making, that we will fight tooth and nail to ensure that 15% is actually scrapped. We are equally committing ourselves that we will ensure that all postgraduate students, they receive funding, because our argument is that students who are doing their postgraduate studies, actually majority of them were funded by NSFAS. So the argument is that if you had applied for NSFAS, you were sustained by NSFAS for 3 years or 4 years during your degree. Now when we are doing a postgraduate degree, where are you supposed to get the money from? Because we are arguing that if we were poor then, we are equally poor now. We are also saying that the stipends that RAs they receive must also increase. This is in line with the labor relation law of this country, which dictates that all those which dictates that the minimum wage is 3.5. Now we're also saying that we'll ensure that the question of one pet, one condom drive is actually realized. We're also saying that the clinic should also be open 24/7, because as we have said time without a number, that as students, they don't have a timetable of getting sick. They can get sick at any point. Now, I must also state that as the EFFSC, we are committing ourselves that we are going to be the real SRC of the students. And we are urging students not to make the mistake which they tend to make over the years of voting for people who can be best described as prefects of the management. We are saying vote for the vanguard of the student, which is the EFF Student Command. Another commitment which I'm also making is that I'm going to be staying in an off-campus residences until the condition of students, they improve, because the plight of students who stay off campus, they will never improve for as long as SRC leaders, they choose to accept benefits from the institution and they actually move away from students into isolated spaces where there's minimal interaction with students. Not to say that on campus there are no problems. Now, we are saying that SRC members must not accept benefits from the management, because after all, how do you fight a system which benefits you? Now, as I draw towards the conclusion, I want to urge all students from the 6th to the 8th to do the right thing and vote for the EFFSC. Xa sesiya onyulweni ngomhla ka6 to umhla ka8 ndiyanicela ukuba sivotele iEFFSC. Ke batla hore ka di 6 le di 8 a re votele mokgatlo wa EFFSC, re votele baetapele ba nnete. Thank you very much, and to all contesting organizations, I hope that we are going to have free and fair elections. I hope that we'll remain tolerant of one another, and I hope that as we continue to campaign, we are going to adhere to all the COVID-19 protocols. I must once again remind all students that let us vote for the EFF Student Command, as we have presented very solid ideas in terms of how we want to impact the lives of students. There's no other organization which has presented a very extensive manifesto as we have done. So, Sito Mickey Mouse about Votelo Mickey Mouse, they belong in Disneyland, they don't belong in offices. So don't make a mistake of voting for unomgogwana wekipa eyellow. Lokhu sivotela inhlangano yabafundi ezokwazi ukuthi iqhube istruggle sama student, struggle se free education, as the EFF Student Command will not rest up until all these issues I've articulated are actually realized. Thank you very much. Amandla.
Greetings, fellow students of Ukzn. I greet you all. My name is Malusi Michael Chikitela Amajongosi Zuma. I am the current chairperson of Ukzn Education Campus, and I am the candidate for the President General representing Ukzn as SASCO Ukzn. And today I'm here to represent SASCO in its manifesto, as I will take you through to the demands of students and the manifesto of SASCO across all campuses, as I represent the whole of Ukzn. Thank you very much. In my opening remarks, in the leadership term of 2021-2022, we dedicate our service to Simphiwe Zuma, the former president of SASCO, who was dedicated in ensuring the prosperity of every student enrolled in higher institution. Since the total takeover of 100% seats in 2018 SRC elections, SASCO Ukzn branches, together with the sister organizations in the Progressive Youth Alliance, the ANC Youth League, the YCLSA, we have maintained a good record of 100% in our SRC elections. Even though there were shortcomings during our term of office, we shall accelerate the transformation agenda within the campus and all campuses, and then institution, notwithstanding those shortfalls, can be rectified. The massive financial exclusion saw more than 20,000 students of our students being financially excluded, the majority of which are postgrads as a result of not affording to pay the 15% and 50% commitments of their outstanding fees. Through the SRC Trust Fund, over 5.2 million rand was fundraised in less than 3 months to address the issue of financial exclusion. This initiative assisted over 900 students across UKZN which were at verge of financial exclusion. Furthermore, the SASCO deployed SRC has achieved that those who have outstanding fees and could not settle 85% of their outstanding fees will have the 15% uplifted so that they can get their certificate within 36 months. Together with working with SAU's government will prioritize the issue of historical debts as a matter of urgent. Part of the urgent issues that the incoming SRC will have to start Together, working with the SAUs, government will reprioritize the issue of historical debts as a matter of urgent. Part of the urgent issues that this incoming SRC will have to start engaging on is the issue of registration, especially considering COVID-19 and its implications on the economy, resulting in a massive loss of jobs. With this understanding, the SASCO deployed SRC ensured that the students that had appealed for NSFAS and had no funding were able to receive free food parcels and sanitary towels through partnership with different NPOs and other organizations in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Part of the problems of the present state of all campuses and institutions include some challenges that have been faced by our governance and leadership structures from the class representative level to the SRC executive. SASCO will ensure that all our progressive forces in the form of SRC, house committees, sports union, class representatives are well organized to transform the institution to a maximum level that will see students from poor backgrounds and working class graduating and continuing with postgraduate studies focusing on research that will change the society, because we are members of society before we are students. However, all being said and done, SASCO has a good track record on delivering to its students. The manifesto that I will be presenting to UKZN populace is divided into 5 subsections, which are categories of key interest in the quest to deliver on the demands of students and improving the student experience in UKZN. Some of these categories have been partially covered by my senators, which are the incoming campus chairpersons, deployed by SASCO, of course. Subsection number 1. Improving the structural capacity of the SRC. Failure to sit the student parliament in the past 2 terms has resulted in the SRC failing to change the SRC constitution that was approved by council in June 2018. The constitution, being new, meant that it would not be immune to the need to improve the areas of shortfalls. It is with this very reason that we have identified that substructures were not correctly incorporated in terms of the new structural changes of the Constitution. House committees, sports union, class representatives, and school committees has been existence outside the broader mandate tasked to the SRC. For the past 2 terms, no school committees were formed because schools and colleges take time in sending class representatives, which ultimately leaves every little time to set up these structures. These substructures of the SRC are substructures of the SRC, not sports department, no DSRA, no lecturers. The class representatives are not substructures of lecturers or module coordinators or cluster leaders of modules, but they're of the SRC. It is therefore for this reason that the SRC has several shortfalls, because it must deal with issues that should be handled by its substructures. It will be the priority of this incoming SRC to rectify these structural deficiencies by ensuring that meetings that have capacity to change policies are held without any delays. It is our role as the organization to make sure that the governance structures are well coordinated and organized to champion the issues of students. In addressing these challenges, SASCO has brought the following solutions. Integration of House Committee and Sports Union Constitution with that of the SRC, and ensuring that their roles and responsibilities are enshrined in the SRC Constitution. Formulation of policy document of class representative that will define the duties and responsibilities of class representatives. Allocation of offices to sports union, house committees, and school committees in the student union building so that they are accessible to all our registered students. Maximizing the capacity of the SRC by establishing procedural and standard operation channels with its structures. Election of school committees as envisaged in the SRC Constitution. This will ensure that matters are dealt with at the school level, where many academic decisions are being implemented from the colleges. Ensure that all house committees, sport committees, and school committees are elected 2 weeks after the close of registration. Ensure transparency and accountability to the student parliament that has to be convened for the SRC to account on its budget and implementation of its program of action. On residences and private accommodation, improving the state of residences and renovation of bathrooms and kitchens, including the replacement of kitchen appliances in all residences. Rerouting of all buses to ensure that our buses collect students at commune and private accommodation roads. Launch a fully fledged on and off campus resident inspection to identify all residences that are no longer in compliance with the National DHCT Government Gazette. To have the university consider building residences across campuses and Together, working with the SAWUS, government will reprioritize the issue of historical debts as a matter of urgent. Part of the urgent issues that this incoming SRC will have to start engaging on is the issue of registration, especially considering COVID-19 and its implications on the economy, resulting in a massive loss of jobs. With this understanding, the SASCO deployed SRC ensured that the students that had appealed for NSFAS and had no funding were able to receive free food parcels and sanitary towels through partnership with different NPOs and other organizations in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. Part of the problems of the present state of all campuses and institutions include some challenges that have been faced by our governance and leadership structures from the class representative level to the SRC executive. SASCO will ensure that all our progressive forces in the form of SRC, house committees, sports union, class representatives are well organized to transform the institution to a maximum level that will see students from poor backgrounds and working class graduating and continuing with postgraduate studies focusing on research that will change the society, because we are members of society before we are students. However, all being said and done, SASCO has a good track record on delivering to its students. The manifesto that I will be presenting to Ukzn populace is divided into 5 subsections, which are categories of key interest in the quest to deliver on the demands of students and improving the student experience in UKZN. Some of these categories have been partially covered by my senators, which are the incoming campus chairpersons, deployed by SASCO, of course. Subsection number 1. Improving the structural capacity of the SRC. Failure to sit the student parliament in the past 2 terms has resulted in the SRC failing to change the SRC constitution that was approved by council in June 2018. The constitution, being new, meant that it would not be immune to the need to improve the areas of shortfalls. It is with this very reason that we have identified that substructures were not correctly incorporated in terms of the new structural changes of the Constitution. House committees, sports union, class representatives, and school committees has been existent outside the broader mandate tasked to the SRC. For the past 2 terms, no school committees were formed because schools and colleges take time in sending class representatives, which ultimately leaves every little time to set up these structures. These substructures of the SRC are substructures of the SRC, not sports department, nor DSRA, nor lecturers. The class representatives are not substructures of lecturers or module coordinators or cluster leaders of modules, but they're of the SRC. It is therefore for this reason that the SRC has several shortfalls, because it must deal with issues that should be handled by its substructures. It will be the priority of this incoming SRC to rectify these structural deficiencies by ensuring that meetings that have capacity to change policies are held without any delays. It is our role as the organization to make sure that the governance structures are well coordinated and organized to champion the issues of students. In addressing these challenges, SASCO has brought the following solutions. Integration of House Committee and Sports Union Constitution with that of the SRC, and ensuring that their roles and responsibilities are enshrined in the SRC Constitution. Formulation of policy document of class representative that will define the duties and responsibilities of class representatives. Allocation of offices to sports union, house committees, and school committees in the student union building so that they are accessible to all our registered students. Maximizing the capacity of the SRC by establishing procedural and standard operation channels with its structures. Election of school committees as envisaged in the SRC constitution. This will ensure that matters are dealt with at the school level where many academic decisions are being implemented from the colleges. Ensure that all house committees, sport committees, and school committees are elected 2 weeks after the close of registration. Ensure transparency and accountability to the student parliament that has to be convened for the SRC to account on its budget and implementation of its program of action. On residences and private accommodation, improving the state of residences and renovation of bathrooms and kitchens, including the replacement of kitchen appliances in all residences. Rerouting of all buses to ensure that our buses collect students at commune and private accommodation roads. Launch a fully fledged on and off campus resident inspection to identify all residences that are no longer in compliance with the National DHCT Government Gazette. To have the university consider building residences across campuses